Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 24 hours after Taliban's terror cabinet has been established its reign over Afghanistan, their fans in India are going totally berserk. This is despite the Pakistan ISI stamp all over the new terror caliphate. Despite the mayhem unleashed by the Taliban and taking the region, which considerably progressed in the last 20 years back to the medieval age, the lobby has pinned its hope on the new terror team. From Mehbooba Mufti to Farooq Abdullah to ST Hassan, they have all fallen for the farce that Taliban has reformed. Listen to this.
देखिए मैं ये समझती हूँ कि तालिबान एक हकीकत बन के सामने आ रहा है और अब की बार अगर वो आए हैं और हुकूमत करना चाहते हैं अफगानिस्तान में और किस तरह गवर्न करना चाहिए जो मदीने का हमारा मॉडल रहा है हमारे हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का, तो अगर वो वाकई उस पर अमल करना चाहते हैं तो मुझे लगता है वो दुनिया के लिए एक मिसाल बन सकते हैं।
अफगानिस्तान एक अलग मुल्क और उन्हें अब उस मुल्क को संभालना जो वहाँ पे आए, मैं ये उम्मीद करूंगा कि वो इंसाफ हर एक से करेंगे और एक अच्छी हुकूमत चलाएंगे।
अगर तालिबान का आचरण सही हो गया ह्यूमन राइट्स के लिए, वुमेन राइट्स के लिए और डेमोक्रेटिक राइट्स के लिए, अगर वो सही काम करते हैं, वेट एंड वॉच करके इनके आचरण को देखते हुए आगे हमारी सरकारें कार्रवाई करेंगी।
अगर ये सही करते हैं, वेट एंड वॉच करते हैं, अगर ह्यूमन राइट्स वो अपहोल्ड करते हैं, तो हमें उन्हें एक चांस देना चाहिए. That's what all three of them are saying. Despite visual proof of Taliban turning Afghanistan into living hell, Mehbooba Mufti believes that the terror cabinet can set an example if it follows the real Sharia, but she ignores the fact that voices of women have been crushed. They are shackled and subjugated under the new regime. Not one woman in the terror cabinet. And still, Mehbooba Mufti has hopes in the 21st century from the Taliban regime. Farooq Abdullah of the National Conference hoped that the Taliban will deliver good governance in Afghanistan, but what he has completely ignored that while rushing to give a clean chit is that the dreaded globally sanctioned terrorists are part of the 33-member cabinet. The Samajwadi Party MP, Mr. Hassan, advised that the government should rethink if the Taliban has reformed. They should be in talks with this Taliban. But he looks away from the fact that execution squads are taking out detractors while journalists are being thrashed and killed. But we, at times now, want to ask those who are exuberant after the mercenaries have formed the government. We want to ask Farooq Abdullah whether dreaded and globally wanted terrorists deliver governance. Will Taliban at the helm of affairs, would they promote governance or terror? We want to ask Mehbooba Mufti, doesn't an all-male cabinet stir fear of the dark ages? And does she really believe that Taliban will give up hounding women? And to the Samajwadi Party's Mr. Hassan, we want to ask him, do reform mean thrashing of journalists, attacking the media freedom? And why engage with Taliban knowing how it betrayed India 20 years ago? And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight. Why are these political parties in India in such a hurry to certify Taliban terror? That's the question and the debate. Lobby hails Taliban cabinet. That's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Joining me tonight, Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Shehzad Poonawala, lawyer, Lieutenant General Gurmit Singh, retired former Deputy Chief of Army Staff. Also joining me tonight, Dr. Sumant Siraman, Political Analyst, Majid Hyderi, Political Analyst. But my first question goes to Dr. Samir Kaul, Spokesperson of the National Conference. And Dr. Kaul, I want to ask you that Mr. Farooq Abdullah, doesn't he look at the news that emanates from Afghanistan over the last 3 or 4 weeks? It's been there. Journalists have been thrashed. You can see the visuals on the screen. Women, their throats have been slit. They've been told to stay in burqa, no co-education, no working for the moment. And they're going to, put everything into the dark ages. Not one woman represented in the 33-member cabinet. And yet we are saying, oh, it's business as usual. This is a good Taliban. They might be able to give great governance. Where does this confidence come from, Dr. Kaul?
Good evening, Navika. Thank you for having me on the show after a long time. And I'm happy to
have
be
you,
here.
sir.
But at the very outset, I'm sure Dr. Farooq Abdullah, thank you. Dr. Farooq Abdullah, I'm sure, is extremely capable of voicing his hopes, his aspirations, like, for instance, Harshvardhan Shringla, my eminent foreign secretary in Washington currently, like all other intelligentsia and diplomats of my country are at the moment. All of us are hoping that the horrors of war, which are next door in Afghanistan, and hoping that good sense prevails on Taliban 2.0, and they are able to respect not only the minorities' rights, as we are expecting India and negotiating for. You are aware that we had more than 2 talks with the Taliban so far in Qatar, in our embassy, albeit at their request, which is good on their part. So there are good signs where they have reassured our country that they are going to look after our interests, and they're going to make sure that no terrorism emanates from that land for any other country. So far, and our foreign secretary is on record saying that so far noises from the Taliban vis-a-vis India are extremely reassuring. And therefore, the engagement that we have already had, and good sense has prevailed that we have had it. So Dr. Farooq Abdullah, being a senior leader of this country, and perhaps representing that part of India which has the possibility of withholding the maximum impact of this horrible change next door, voices his opinion. Tell me, where is he wrong? Why is he anti-national? Why not the others? Why not the government of India? Don't you think it is wise to be diplomatic in such a fast evolving situation next door?
Sanju
and hoping
Verma,
for the best,
Sanju
which is exactly
Verma,
what he has done.
The question is in your court. Sanju Verma, he says if the government can talk, they are nationalistic. If Farooq Abdullah expresses a hope, he is being labeled anti-national. Respond to Dr. Kaul.
First and foremost, I want to say categorically that Mr. Kaul has his facts completely haywire. The Foreign Secretary has never said that there are good noises coming in from the Taliban's end vis-a-vis India. So please do not make half-baked statements which you cannot authenticate. Point number 1. Point number 2, I have said this on umpteen occasions, and I say it again, with complete confidence. The Modi government has always maintained that it will never negotiate with terror militia groups. Point number 3, the most recent meeting between the Indian envoy to Qatar, Deepak Mittal, and the Taliban spokesperson was at the behest of the Taliban spokespeople. But more importantly, the 2 big messages that we simply gave to the Talibanis were, A, you cannot use Afghan soil to export terror to India. And point number 2, there are still more than 140 Hindus and Sikhs who are waiting to be deported from Afghanistan to India, and their safety and security is uppermost on the Indian government's agenda. And now to buck the narrative of Farooq Abdullah. Farooq Abdullah is the same person who 2 years back, after the abrogation of Article 370, said that Kashmiris would rather be ruled by the Chinese and Pakistanis than by an Indian government. He obviously referred to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. And if that is not an anti-national statement, then I think Mr. Kaul here, who's representing the National Conference, needs to brush up his vocabulary. And I just want to say one thing. I have said this in the past on your show, Navika, and I'll repeat. When you talk to a spokesperson from the Taliban dispensation simply to extract a transactional commitment that your people in Afghanistan will be safe and secure, that is completely different from having a bilateral dialogue as equals. So let me tell Mr. Kaul that we are under no hallucination that a private terror militia group does not find resonance with the Modi government. And just I'll quickly end by saying, be it Richard Moore, the British M16 chief, be it the CIA chief, Bill Burns, or be it Nikolai Patrushev, the head of the Russian Security Council, all these three people have either met the NSA, Mr. Ajit Doval, or the Prime Minister, or both. And what was discussed was peace and stability in Afghanistan. No one made any statement about giving legitimacy to a terror group called Taliban. So I think Farooq Abdullah is hallucinating, and all these people who want to convert Darul Harb into Darul Islam, I think they are really barking up the wrong tree, because that is not going to happen. And as I see it, Navika, I think the Taliban may crumble under its own weight, because barring China and Pakistan, of course, because, you know, it has staked everything on terror activities in Taliban. Tell me, have Russia supported?
Well, let's not say it too soon. Let's not say it too soon, because which way Russia and China are going to go, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Yes, the National Security Advisor is in Russia today, and we are hoping that India is able to get some strong allies on their side. But Dr. Suman Sriraman, do you find it surprising that in India, you say there is no freedom of speech, but you don't question it, and everybody, especially from what we call your lobby, the Khan Market gang, is so gung-ho about the Taliban rule in Afghanistan that they don't even see these visuals of how journalists have been beaten up. Not one woman in the 33-member cabinet. No freedom to women. Yet, we seem to be so euphoric. Mehbooba Mufti coming out and saying कि ये शरिया का अगर अच्छा इस्तेमाल करेंगे तो एक एग्जाम्पल सेट कर सकते हैं. क्या कर रहे हैं वो औरतों को? Are we blind to the facts, or don't we want to see them?
Navika, I think it is advisable to be a little cautious in what we say today, because 3-4 days later it could prove to be acutely embarrassing to you and to Sanju Verma and others. Look, the fact is, I don't think that this is about whether the Taliban has changed or not. In fact, I would strongly recommend viewers to record this show, so that
all our shows are recorded. Don't worry, I'll provide you, and I have no sense of embarrassment. I will not support a terror government in Afghanistan by the Taliban, where there are individuals who carry bounties on their head, global terrorists. Whether the United States government is embarrassed about supporting them and recognizing them, or the Indian government, I will stay firm, and I will say no truck with terrorists and no truck with Taliban till my dying day. So record this, Dr. Suman Sriraman, and if your phone runs out of memory, or if your computer runs out of memory, just feel free to call me. I will provide you this clip free of cost, out of pure friendship and sparring for old time's sake. Go on, make your point.
Let me go on. Now,
Navika,
the point
I'm
is,
sure Honorable Shiv Shankar ji would have heard you tonight and would have taken that on note.
If you do want to discuss, some questions with Mr. Shiv Shankar, I'm sure he will be more than welcoming you on his show at 8 p.m. every night. Please feel free to join him on the next Taliban discussion. We'll be very happy to have you. I'm sure Mr. Shiv Shankar will be too. Open invitation.
Can I finish my point, please? Okay. Now, the point is, various countries are talking to the Taliban, including the United States of America, including Iran, including obviously Pakistan, including China, and so many other countries have opened lines of formal communication. Now, we can do one thing. Nobody is talking about endorsing the Taliban. Nobody is talking about giving them certificate here. The point is, what choice does India have? How long do we say that we will not talk when if the rest of the world at some point chooses to recognize the government. And now we know, Navika, that there have been back channel talks running for months. It's not, as Sanju Verma said, only about the safety of Indian citizens there. Back channel talks have apparently been happening for months. That has been stated on record. So there have been, discussions which have been going on. Now, if the rest of the world recognizes the Taliban government in Afghanistan, then it puts India into a very difficult situation. If the United States, if the European countries recognize this government, and I'm not saying that will happen, because they now have a very, very difficult task. Some of those people who are now in the cabinet in Afghanistan have bounties on their heads, $5 million and $10 million bounties on their heads offered by the FBI. So it's going to be very, very embarrassing for the United States as well.
No.
But should it come to that, then what choice does India have? Because India has everything to lose.
Dr. Suman Siraman, today I'm a little surprised with your motherhood statements and the kind of positioning that you're doing, as if you're so worried about the foreign policy of the country, and everything really depends. I want a straight answer. Why? If we have to wait and watch for the situation on how it develops, why is it important for people to come out and today begin to endorse them by saying, oh, we hope they are good, they are going to be able to give great governance, some journalists are being beaten black and blue, some women's throats are being cut, some women are not being allowed to work and study in co-education colleges, but we think this is a good Taliban which will deliver a good governance. Why is there competition in India to do so? My straight question to you.
What is wrong in saying, I hope they are not like how bad they were?
What do you expect? What do you expect terrorists to do? Should I send you the CVs? The Afghan Prime Minister, Mullah Mohammad Hassan Akhund, hardliner chief of decision-making Rehbari Shura, placed on the United Nations sanction list, sanctioned destruction of the Bamiyan Buddhas in 2001. Now look at Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, Afghan's first deputy prime minister, believed to have founded the Taliban with Mullah Omar, arrested in Pakistan in 2010, freed in 2018 and relocated, oversaw the signing of the withdrawal agreement with US. Haqqani, I don't need to tell you who Haqqani is, heads the network known for the use of suicide bombers, has a 5 million bounty on his head. And you're saying we might just give them a chance. They have it in them to build roads, to give power, to give equality to women and give them rights. क्या हो गया शहजाद पूनावाला? या तो हमारी बुद्धि खत्म हो गई है या इनकी बुद्धि की जो लाइट है, जो एलईडी बल्ब है, वो इतने चमक रहे हैं कि बस पूरी दुनिया में रोशनी ही रोशनी है.
Take a stand now. Put it on record. You say Indian government.
I am not a spokesperson for the Indian government, Dr. Suman Siraman. Even if you love to think so, I'm not a spokesperson for the Indian government. I'm Navika Kumar. I have my Indian citizenship and I have my views which are my own. Whether they suit the government or suit you or not is not my problem. As far as this terror cabinet is concerned, I am not expecting any magic like Dr. Farooq Abdullah or Mehbooba Mufti. I'm not expecting any magic to happen there. But Shehzad Poonawala, ये लगता है overnight सारे के सारे पीसी सरकार बन गए.
देखिए, बेगाने की शादी में और तालिबान की सरकार में अब्दुल्ला क्यों दीवाना? क्योंकि दोनों का शरिया से रिश्ता है और वो है निभाना. नो लेट मी एक्सप्लेन टू यू. फारूक अब्दुल्ला की बातें आपने सुनी होगी पहले भी. ये चाइना की मदद से 370 लाना चाहते हैं. पाकिस्तान ने चूड़ियां पहनकर नहीं रखी. हालांकि चूड़ियां पहनना इज नॉट अ साइन ऑफ वीकनेस, बट पाकिस्तान ने चूड़ियां पहनकर नहीं रखी है. आप पीओके के बारे में कैसे सोच सकते हो? पीओके तुम्हारे बाप का है. दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ स्टेटमेंट फारूक अब्दुल्ला हैज मेड. एंड लुक एट व्हाट फारूक अब्दुल्ला, महबूबा मुफ्ती अंदर इनका से चूड़ियां पहनी है. और देखिए बिल्कुल नहीं, ये तो फारूक अब्दुल्ला की सोच है, और फारूक अब्दुल्ला और तालिबान और महबूबा मुफ्ती की सोच में बहुत सारे समानताएं हैं। दोनों चाहते शरिया लागू हो, दोनों 35A के हटाने के खिलाफ थे जो महिला अधिकारों से लेना देना है, दोनों वहां पर जो शोषित समाज है, माइनॉरिटीज है, दलित कम्युनिटी है, उनको अधिकार देने के खिलाफ है। दोनों चाहते हैं कि जो कश्मीरी पंडित समुदाय को वहां पर काफिर कहकर भगा दिया गया उसको वो कभी कंडेम नहीं करते। आपको पता है नाविका, एक समय था काबुल में प्रधानमंत्री एक कश्मीरी पंडित हुआ करते थे। आज काबुल में तालिबान का राज है और आज कश्मीर में भी ये परिवारवादियों का तालिबान का राज बहुत अरसे तक चला है, और वो वही चाहते हैं कि कश्मीरी पंडित और जो महिलाएं हैं उनके अधिकार कभी ना रहे। तो ये दोनों में समानता है, पर सवाल ये पैदा होता है, देखिए सुमन सिंह रमन की क्या व्यथा है। वो कल तक राहुल गांधी में होप एक्सप्रेस कर रहे थे, टुडे ही इज एक्सप्रेसिंग होप इन तालिबान। ही इज सेइंग व्हाट इज रॉन्ग इन सेइंग आई होप Taliban will be good. He will then tomorrow say, what is wrong if I say I hope Osama is good, I hope Lashkar-e-Toiba is good, I hope Jamaat-e-Dawa is good, I hope Hafiz Saeed is good. Is this an argument? No, one second sir. और ये आगे आने वाले पैनलिस्ट ये तो आदरणीय और माननीय कहते हैं तालिबान को। मैं बात कर रहा हूं माजिद हैदरी की। अब सोचिए इस बात को कि कितने तालिबान फैन बॉयज और फैन गर्ल्स है, और ये केवल इसलिए क्योंकि दोनों का एजेंडा सेम है, दोनों की सोच एक है, दोनों वेरिएंट अलग अलग है, पर वायरस एक ही है, और दोनों का मकसद एक ही है, मुद्दा एक ही है, मायने एक ही है कि शरिया लागू हो। और आज शरिया के डिफेंस में और उनकी तमाम बात, और ये कैसे लिबरल्स है? सुमन सिंह रमन इज द सेम लिबरल हु कांट stand anything done against women, and rightly so, but today he wants to give Taliban a chance. He can't give RSS or BJP government a chance,
and
but he wants to give Taliban a chance.
He's filled with despair about India, but filled with hope about Taliban and Afghanistan. ये क्या हो रहा है माजिद हैदरी जी? आपको इंडिया में होप खत्म होती जा रही है। पहले जो वाया दिल्ली आपको मिलता था, अब वाया दिल्ली तो मिल नहीं रहा, तो अब वाया पाकिस्तान, अफगानिस्तान आपको कश्मीर में चाहिए। यही है ना प्रॉब्लम आपको, कि वहां से मदद मिलेगी, यहाँ तो दाल गल नहीं रही।
कहीं दीप जले कहीं दिल।
Oh my God!
अच्छा, आपके यहाँ दीप जल रहा है, आपके यहाँ दीप जल रहा है क्योंकि तालिबान आ गया है ना, तालिबान आ गया है, तो आपके यहाँ दीप जल रहा है। आप दिवाली इसकी मनाइए कि तालिबान आ गया है, तालिबान आ गया है, उससे आपको होप है। शहजाद पूनावाला, आई मीन इफ वी हैव टू सी दिस फ्रॉम एन इंडियन ऑन इंडियन टेलीविजन,
टॉकिंग गुड अबाउट तालिबान और होल्डिंग गुड रिलेशंस विद देम is neither a crime nor a sin nor a taboo.
ये देखिए माजिद
Taliban has become the new international statement. And this statement was introduced by none other than the Americans. The Chinese have upheld that. The Russians have only strengthened that. Pakistan is glamorizing it. Iran is glorifying it. And Turkey has spiritualized this element. So when Taliban have so many worldly blessings, why does India want to get isolated into a cave? कृपया करके गुफा से बाहर आए, तालिबान से बातचीत करके देखें। गुफाओं के आगे जहां और भी हैं।
मेरे दोस्त माजिद, आपने शुरुआत गाने से की। सुनिए माजिद, आपने शुरुआत गाने से की। ये गाना काबुल में गाते तो तालिबान वाले पकड़ कर ले जाते। ये तो शुक्र है कि काबुल में नहीं कश्मीर में हो तुम, ये शुक्र मनाओ, तुम खुदा का शुक्र मनाओ कि तुम काबुल में नहीं मोदी के भारत में हो, इसीलिए गाना गाने के लिए पकड़ कर ले नहीं गए तुम्हें, वरना तुम्हारे बरादर तुम्हें पकड़ कर ले जाते।
नहीं, ऊपर से दीप जलाने की बात है, ऊपर से दीप जलाने की बात है। दीप जो दिवाली में जलते हैं, दिवाली वहां मनाने नहीं देते क्योंकि हिंदू कोई बचा नहीं है वहां।
Hindus who live there continue to live there in harmony with the Muslims.
Oh yes,
you don't have any.
That's why they all want to leave and come. That's why the Guru Granth Sahib was also brought. That's why the Guru Granth Sahib was also brought. The Hindus and the Sikhs want to flee from there. Yet you are saying that they are living in harmony. Sanju Verma, ये कौन सा चश्मा? I think before you send other schemes to Jammu and Kashmir, you should send a spectacle scheme. क्योंकि इनके जो चश्मे हैं, ये देखते कुछ और है, इनको दिखाता कुछ और है। आप इनको सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड एक स्कीम बना दीजिए चश्मों की, ताकि इनके आंखों से ये पर्दा हटे और इनको सही नजर आना शुरू हो जाए। संजू वर्मा,
वहां थोड़ा विजिट के लिए, लेट्स गो फॉर अ विजिट डे, लेट शहजाद जी आल्सो गो देयर, लेट्स सी द ग्राउंड रियलिटी।
you take a one-way ticket and go there and don't come back.
No, why should I get a one-way ticket? This is my country. I don't want to.
खाएंगे यहाँ और भजन गाएंगे तालिबान के, टेररिस्ट के। संजू वर्मा, yes, संजू वर्मा, respond to Majid Hyderi.
You know, Navika, the important point is that Majid Hyderi is a थाली का बैंगन, और मैंने पहले भी आपके शो में कहा था कि माजिद हैदरी की गंदी आदत है जिस थाली में खाना उसी थाली में छेद करना, ये इनकी फितरत में है। खैर, फितरत इतनी जल्दी बदलती नहीं है, पर जो मुद्दे की बात है वो ये
कर रही है, बैंगन हमारा राष्ट्रीय भोजन है, आप बदनाम कर रही हैं बैंगन को।
I did not interrupt him. This is not fair. Let me make a point.
You have issues with brinjal.
I will not speak if this man continues to butt in.
बैंगन से भी प्रॉब्लम है।
Majid Hyderi, calm down. Majid Hyderi, let's not make irrelevant comments. Sanju Verma, make your point.
Personal attack on me, बैंगन है। आपको भी प्रॉब्लम बैंगन से।
Let me come in now. Navika, please, I don't want this background music. This man has a grating voice and he's not pleasant to listen to. Anyway, let me come to the main important point, Navika. First and foremost, you know, why is it that the likes of a Mehbooba and a Farooq Abdullah keep making these statements, which are outrageous to say the least? You call them the Khan Market gang, I call them the Khan Market gang, the Hafsas gang, and the Lutyens Lashkar gang all rolled into one. Please note that this is a political setup now which has become completely irrelevant. Farooq Abdullah said we will not take part in the Panchayat elections in Jammu Kashmir in October 2018. The average voter turnout was more than 71%. What happened in the DDC election in November 2020? These guys said, अरे 6 पार्टियां मिलकर a 6-party alliance called the Gupkar gang could not win more than 110 seats, and BJP was the single largest winner with 75 seats. So political irrelevance has actually rattled the Mehbooba, Mufti, Omar Abdullah combined, point number 1, and I think this is the most important point. The more important point, यहाँ पर जो लोग बैठ के बोलते हैं India should be worried, you know, what happens if the Talibanis get support and endorsement from other superpowers like say the US or Russia. So let me remind them, what is the entire GDP of Afghanistan? Does any of the panelists here know the entire GDP is 20?
We are getting information. Dr. S. Jaishankar, Foreign Affairs Minister, has just tweeted. He says, address the Afghanistan conference co-convened by Secretary Blinken and Heiko Maas. Resumption of travel out of Kabul is a priority. Use of Afghan soil to promote terrorism in any manner by any country is unacceptable. The Taliban must live up to its declarations to that effect. He also has stated the world should not countenance interference by external players, especially those intensifying violence at this difficult time. Our collective approach should be guided by UNSC Resolution 2593, where they have said that there should be no use of Afghan soil for terrorism. So, Lieutenant General Gurmit Singh, I want to ask you, the Indian government is waiting and watching. Yes, it is a very difficult situation. If they have to get people out of there, if the Taliban does become, a recognized government, how things are going to pan out is something that is still in the unknown. But why are there people within India who are in such a hurry to express their hope and aspirations that this Taliban, full of terrorists, will be somewhat of a governance machinery in Afghanistan? Are they seeing something that we can't?
Navika, it is very unfortunate to hear words like Taliban now reality. They will deliver just government, hoping that they will be giving good governance, and tangentially they are trying to endorse the Taliban government. In fact, I personally feel they're still in the illusions. They're still under the radicalisation spell. They're still under the domain of proxy and lobby of Pakistan. It's so unfortunate that they're not able to see through that what is a threat, which is a reality. There's a threat of terrorism and radicalisation which is going to emanate from that area. There's a threat of the weapons, terrorists and the terrorist organization which is coming with the ideology of fundamentalism, extremism and jihadism, which is going to come into this area. This is what they got to see. But unfortunately, they are not able to see this. And they are hoping on the other side, in the government which they have announced, it is neither inclusive nor representative. They have not included women. It doesn't have any Tajik, any Hazara, or any social aspect of it. In fact, look at it. It's a hardcore Taliban terrorist leaders who are packed into this. 30 out of the 33 are Pashtuns. And you look at it, 14 are designated UN designated terrorists. They have only training which they got is in madrasas. And what ISI, the role which ISI played, at least now understand what role Pakistan and ISI is playing. You know, you must hear what the women, what the protesters are saying in Kabul. They are saying that Pakistan has invaded them. Just a minute, sir. Just listen. Have the gumption of listening and reality. That is the reality, not what you're trying to portray. And please listen, because this is going to affect entire India. Listen, don't interrupt me. Please, humbly I will say, don't interrupt me. What I'm saying is, they are just pack of ultra-conservative. They are the terrorists. They have been trained by Pakistan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lieutenant General Gurmit Singh. You have a problem with that as well, Dr. Suman Siraman? You have a problem with that view as well?
No, nobody has a problem with that view. Everybody knows that they are terrorists and they have been trained by Pakistan.
Oh, but some people are more hopeful than the others, and that's your problem.
No. What is the point in stating the obvious without saying what should be the approach of the government? You tell us. Nobody has told us.
I don't know what advice you want to give the government. Well, you have many ways of doing that, but I want to ask you, Dr. Kaul, Dr. Sameer Kaul, my question to you is a limited, short focus question, and this question merely relates to the fact that is Taliban the latest weapon for political parties to somehow use this as a tool to begin to create political fodder and just create a narrative which suits their own vote banks. The Taliban, supporting the Taliban, is that going to be a political tool now?
I can understand your fears, and I understand the fears of General Gurmit Singh and other people on this program about what the Taliban might do given their past track record. Believe me, we in the National Conference and in Kashmir also share these fears, but at the same time we hope that better sense dawns on them. They practice the right kind of Islam, which is for peace, and then give inclusive government. Exactly what you just quoted our Honorable Foreign Minister saying some time back, that we are hoping that they come true on their one minute, please, Madam. Don't keep jumping the horse. Otherwise, the government of India will send you to fight the Taliban right away. Let's wait. 1 minute. You can keep on shouting.
Sanju Verma ji, allow him to complete his point. Allow him to complete his point. I'll give you time to rebut. Yes, Dr. Kaul.
I was just saying that hoping against hope, and what options do we have, like the other gentleman was
Dr.
saying.
Kaul,
Yes,
I don't remember the last time the National Conference expressed hope in a government in India as it is expressing about the Taliban government in Afghanistan.
1 minute, please, 1 minute, madam. Please allow people, don't throttle them. And I want your permission this evening on this very intelligent discussion from you to recommend your and some other people's names to the government of India to actually go and fight the Taliban and stop them.
Well, if the government was taking your recommendations so seriously, Dr. Kaul, you would be going places.
I give you credit
You
for
would be going
I can
places if the government of India was taking your recommendations so seriously. Well, patronizing is not the way. Patronizing is not the way you get any brownie points. Well, feel free. Feel free that and make it evident to everybody that when you join the national conference, no matter where you come from, patronizing is the way you will be. Well, patronize all you want, but I want to ask Sanju Verma. Sanju Verma, is the government taking advice from the national conference on who?
Navika, I think let's be very clear. Be it Farooq Abdullah or Omar Abdullah or their representative, Mr. Kaul. I told you a couple of minutes back, their political capital is all but over. You know, the more important point which I want to make is this. The fact of the matter is that why are these people rattled? They are rattled because the Chenani-Nashri tunnel, which was started in 2010-11, was actually brought to fruition by the Modi government in 2017. The Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti gang are rattled because 3 lakh people in Kashmir Valley have got domicile certificates. 7th Pay Commission recommendations are now being implemented. Today, a Dalit son or a Valmiki son need not do a menial job. He can aspire for the highest rank. So these are things, winds of change, which are being resisted by a medieval mindset belonging to the Abdullah clan, a medieval mindset belonging to the Mehbooba Mufti clan. खुद से बच्चों को लंदन में पढ़ने भेजते हो और चाहते हो कश्मीरी मुस्लिम मदरसों में पढ़े, खुद से बच्चों को ऑस्ट्रेलिया में पढ़ने भेजते हो, but you will sit on television studios and give lectures on how instant triple talaq is a very humanitarian move and actually protects women rather than being
well. The issue here is, and you know, just before I wind up this debate, I want to ask Shehzad Poonawala. You know, the issue here is that they won't have the same hope from a government in India. They will not take them at face value, but they are willing to give terror cabinet of Taliban a chance. What does that really tell you about the hopes that have been expressed by some in India about good governance from the terror cabinet in Afghanistan?
नाविका, कुछ लोगों को मोदी विरोध का ऐसा संक्रमण है कि वो तालिबान से भी लिपट सकते हैं, गले मिल सकते हैं। पर मैं कौल जी से एक ही सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं। कौल साहब, आई थिंक इट्स इंसल्टिंग व्हेन यू से दैट तालिबान शुड फॉलो रियल इस्लाम. डू यू कंसिडर देम एज कस्टोडियंस ऑफ इस्लाम? एंड सेकंड, इफ यू आर नॉट in any sense inhibited, then tell us that do you believe that Pakistan sponsored terrorists are part of Taliban? Say it in those words. I challenge the national conference to say that yes, Pakistan sponsored dalals and terrorists are part of the Taliban.
Of course they are. I don't think
so then you are expressing hope. I said in Pakistan sponsored dalals, in Pakistan sponsored Taliban. This is the hope you have.
Please, for God. Please understand. What option do you have? Aren't you hoping? Aren't you talking to them? Isn't our government rightly talking to them? They are.
You said there was no option for 370.
What options do you have?
You said there was no option for Pakistan terrorism.
Please wake up.
Surgical strike or Balakot kiya.
Instead of using everything for getting votes in this country, for once look at the interests of this country. Please do.
Well, free speech being killed, being throttled, journalists being beaten up, women being murdered or ill-treated or kept behind the parda, not even participating in the cabinet. Yet, there are some in India who have such hope from Taliban and good governance from them. Would they say the same thing about their own country and their own government in India? I've never heard them say that. Waiting for them to have hope in India before they have hope in the terror caliphate in Afghanistan. Make a note, ladies and gentlemen, what these people are saying and where you stand on it. Taking a short break as I thank my panelists on debate number 1. Debate number 2, and Pakistan ka dalal. Is the new Hurriyat chief. What's going on in Kashmir? Ladies and gentlemen, the need to dismantle anti-India Hurriyat is more than ever now. Jailed poster boy of the 2010 Kashmir Stir and ISI stooge Masrat Alam has been named as the successor of Saeed Ali Shah Gilani as the head of the Hurriyat. The man who currently rots in jail for fomenting trouble in Kashmir will be the one to peddle Pak propaganda now. But those who embrace the likes of Gilani and describe the need to talk to India haters, will they today condemn Masrat's appointment? Some have failed to take a stand. Listen in to this political slugfest.
कि मसरत आलम को जो है चेयरमैन बनाया गया है हुर्रियत कॉन्फ्रेंस का, तो आप चाहती है कि हुर्रियत के साथ बातचीत हो जाए कि मसरत आलम को जो है चेयरमैन बनाया गया है हुर्रियत कॉन्फ्रेंस का, तो आप चाहती है कि हुर्रियत के साथ बातचीत हो जाए.
Pakistan ISI has now appointed Masrat Alam as the new chief of Hurriyat. Masrat Alam, everybody knows, was involved in the massacre of more than 100 innocent Kashmiris in 2010. That is why he's in jail. But for Pakistan, the biggest criteria of becoming the chief of such a banned outfit is to be the biggest traitor, the biggest anti-national, and Masrat Alam is one of those.
And that brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to the legitimate question for those who batted for talks with Hurriyat. Will they hug Masrat Alam too? That's the question and the debate. Dismantle Hurriyat. That's the hashtag and the debate. Coming up.